introduction, so I guess Wendy, welcome. I hate it. No, sorry. I hate doing this. I feel like I'm Jimmy Fallon or something.
Jimmy Fallon.
You know what I mean? Like I'm literally just me with a camera and a mic. But if you wanna do, if you wanna introduce yourself.
Yeah. My name is Wendy. I'm a French photographer. I grew up outside Paris, and I came to London to study at St. Martin's, doing fashion communication. And after my graduation, I just stayed in London. So I'm kind of working between London and Paris, and yeah, between both cities.
When did you come to London for the first time?
I came in 2011. 2011, which was like a while ago, and I started at London College of Fashion. I did 1 year, and then I went to St. Martin's, and in between I did 1 year internship in Paris, and yeah, I just really love London. I kind of went back to Paris after graduating, thinking, oh, maybe I can work there, but just, I don't know, I already miss London. I just wanted to come back. At that time, I wasn't really 100% sure. I mean, after graduating, I wasn't sure. I was sure I wanted to do photography, but I wasn't sure if I could do it. So that's why I went back to Paris, because I knew there was an agency where I could work. But then I was like, fuck it, I'll just go back to London, try to work as a photographer. And I'm glad I did. Glad I pushed that. It was a difficult start, but yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean by when you said you didn't think maybe as a photographer?
I think I just I've always loved photography. I always loved taking pictures, and at St. Martin's it wasn't just about photography. It was communication in general, but quite more focus on photography. And I knew I wanted to do that, but I think I just didn't really have the confidence to do it. And yeah, I think it was more this, the confidence of being saying, okay, I'm a photographer. It was just, it's really hard. And I think especially, I think as a woman, I don't know, it was just really hard to affirm that, yes, I am a photographer and I can do that, So I think that's why I went back to Paris, because I thought I'm not sure I could make it. And then I was like, I should just try it. And at that time, I launched Arcades magazine because it was my graduation project at St. Martin's. And I did the first issue for my graduation. So it's a magazine that talks about the culture and life of the suburbs. The first issue was just about Paris suburbs. And I was like, maybe I go back to London and I do a second issue about London. And yeah, and I'm glad that all of this happened, because it was me also pushing, trying to make it as a photographer, but also, continuing with Arcades, which helped a lot my photography career. So.
And
yeah.
When did you? Because I understand what you mean about calling yourself. So I think at least to an extent, for myself, is I don't know, if someone says oh yeah, because I study art, so technically you're an artist, I'm an artist, but it feels weird to state that or something like that. When do you feel like you could?
I could say.
Yeah.
So when I feel like I could say I was a photographer, right? I think it's silly things, just when I started really earning money from it. I mean, and I don't think it should be categorized like this, but that's a bit how maybe I could also prove to me and my family that, look, I can sustain myself with photography. And yeah, I guess that's a bit when, for me, it validated okay, I can be a photographer, getting commissions and commercial jobs. Even though I don't think that's right, but that's I don't think, it's because you're, even if I didn't get commercial jobs or earn money, I think it's also valid to be be a photographer.
But I'm asking about you. Of course it's valid.
Yeah. But I guess, there was a bit of the moment where I was like, okay, yeah, I can live through photography financially. So, yeah.
And how was how was coming from, because it's funny because what this thing you say about photography, because I could maybe I earn more money. There's years where I earn more money from doing other things or around photography, but I go back home and I'm the photographer.
Yeah.
Because again, I think I'm the only person in my town, or like from my group of friends that does the kind of thing. And I just wanted to ask you, like, what was like for you? Because I don't know, more like how was the environment where you grew up, but like how was it coming to an arts uni in London, or like especially like like Central St. Martin is quite a famous place, but like, yeah, how was that for you?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a small town where, like, there wasn't. I didn't know many people who were interested in the arts and photography, and for my high school, I was studying science. That was my major, and like, I was really bad at science. But like, it was a bit the thing of like, if you do math and science, then you can do anything you want, So that's why I chose this, and I was really bad. But it's because there was not much access to the arts as well. Like I wanted to do, like a high school with like, I mean, like kind of equivalent to A level, but arts or photography or design, and there was no such things, especially where I was living, because you just didn't have this access. So this already was a bit weird when I told people, okay, I want to go to arts university, and in London, everyone was like, wow, okay, that's strange, And yeah, then coming here, of course, when you meet, but London is a bubble, and you meet
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
a lot of people who have the same interests. So I was like, okay, great. But yeah, then when I go back home, I do feel a bit like, not a stranger, but like, yeah, like, I remember like the first years, I was a bit like, oh yeah, people don't really, they see me maybe as an artist, but like, they don't really know what I'm doing. They think I'm just, messing around, drawing. I don't know, like, it's really hard to explain to people as well what you do. When I was at uni, while I was studying, and also explaining how you can earn money through photography and work as a photographer as well.
Were you thinking of getting into fashion at the beginning? Because you mentioned fashion.
Yes, so I mean, I really loved I really loved fashion, especially like fashion designers that came from St. Martin's. Like, I was really drawn into fashion, and that's also why I wanted to go to St. Martin's. And but I think I still love fashion, of course, but working in the fashion industry, it's good and bad.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah,
let's.
I love. I mean, I still love like seeing also like young designers coming from, or like not just in Martins but any schools. I think there's like people who are so creative and so fascinating, and I don't know, like expressing yourself through clothes is just something that is absolutely amazing as well. And that's also why I love London, because people just dress as they want as well, and that's so great to see. But then in the reality of after graduating, working in this industry, trying to work as a fashion photographer, I think you just realize, okay, the ups and downs of the fashion industry. And I just thought, okay, it's not really my thing, 100%. Not that I don't want to do that, but like, I did an internship in agency in Paris, and working a lot for fashion brands. And I don't know, it's just like, it's also Paris is a bit of a different way of working, especially in fashion, but like it's just very pretentious and very image based and very, it's not a cliche, it's just you really do find this is very cliquey, and I think it's cliquey in loads of different industries, but yeah, there's just something I didn't really find appealing in the end.
Yeah, imagine, especially with like, as you say, like I feel like some epicenter of that industry, like you could be like Milan, where like from talking to, because I sometimes do some work around that industry and talking to models and stuff, Yeah, it's a whole particular world.
It's a particular word, but you know, like you still you love it, but you also hate to love it, you know, kind
Yeah.
of thing. And but I also, you know, I also think, and I think that's the thing I realized throughout the years is there's ways of working in fashion as well. There's you can make your own way of, like, you know, making it less toxic too, and you can. I think not all fashion brands are horrible neither, you know, and I think in the end fashion is about clothes, so like I also think in documentary there's fashion too, you know, like it's, yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna
you find
say.
your ways of doing this.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say. I mean, looking at your work, you found your way around it, no?
I mean, I'm definitely super drawn by documentary photography, of course, but I think one of the things that I loved about documentary photography is, of course, photographing people in the street, and again that's also fashion in a way because it's also the way they dress, you know, like the way they present themselves. And I started shooting in my hometown, in the suburbs around my hometown, um, because I was just, yeah, really drawn by the youth. That's how I started, like, the youth and how they dress and how they speak and how they behave as a group of friends, you know, like, so yeah.
Are you? Because I think it's interesting how all this seems to link back all the time, kind of between, no? Your hometown. Are you um, do you consider yourself quite a homesick person? Like, do you feel?
I mean, you know, I mean, I haven't really thought about it. Now I'm just like got flashback of, like, especially when I was in uni and going back and forth to my hometown. I I just really have this vivid memory of, like, yeah, I felt a bit homesick, as in like I really wanted to be home, not in my town just to be with my family, but once I was there I was like, oh, I just want to go back to London, you know. It's I
every
really,
time, every
yeah,
summer it happens.
exactly. So it's like I really remember this, but I think it's those back and forth that really made me want to create arcades, because I have this love hate relationship with the suburbs, with where I grew up, and it's really doing those back and forth that kind of made me be able to step back a bit, you know, like thinking, oh yeah, I'm super grateful to study in London. And but then, yeah, then every time I go back to this hometown that's like in the middle of nowhere near Disneyland, and then I come back to London, it's like, oh, with all these cool people, and it's like, you know, this international, I don't know, like it really made me think about it and about where I came from, where I grew up, basically.
But yeah, I always hear you, like I heard you in the interviews talk about this love hate. What's
Yeah.
the what, like for you? What was the love? What's the hate?
I mean, the love, I think, is like, you know, I grew up in the eastern suburbs of Paris. It's comfort, you know, it's like I know, you know, I drive around, I know every corner of those towns. My aunt, my cousin, they all live there, my sister as well. Like, it's comfort, and this is my favorite restaurants. It's a very also big Asian community base where I grew up. So, like, it's 100% comfort. Like, I feel home, you know, like this is, yeah, home. But the hate is just like, yeah, you're 30 minutes drive, 30 kilometers from Paris, you know, like we have the overground kind of thing. Takes me 30 minutes to go to central Paris, which is not that bad. But it's just like relying on those trains, like the commuting, you know, like not being part of Paris is what I hated.
What, like feeling? Is it more like a feeling of like you're on the side of Paris?
Yeah, like, you know, you are in the, what would they would, I mean, we're in the suburbs of Paris, so like, you know, we're in the outer circle of Paris, but at the same time we're not in there neither, you know. Like, I don't take the metro, I take another train, you know, like it's these kind of things. Like, it made me feel like I'm so close but also so far from it, and I felt like everything was happening in Paris. And, you know, like I did my art foundation at a high school in Paris, and that was my first experience of like studying, of being around people who were Parisians. And I don't know, I was like, oh, so cool to be in Paris, you know, like, I don't know, everyone's going to bars and like they know where to party, and like, you know, and me, I'm like, you know, I've got my shopping mall, we've got Disneyland.
Yeah.
It's like, I used to hate that. I used to hate feeling like I'm missing out on a lot of things because I was outside Paris, you know. but that's how I used to feel. Like today, not really. You know, like a bit more adult now. Like when I go, I mean, it's also maybe because yes, I know some more people in Paris, and I know I can be there, but I can also be out of it. Like, you know, but yeah, that's just how I felt. I think growing up in the suburbs.
Yeah, is it like, it sounds like sort of like like being from a village,
Yeah.
but like in the sense of like I feel like there's always some, like I come from a city that's big enough that it's a city,
Okay.
small enough that I know everyone. Like I'll bump into everyone all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like from friends that live in bigger cities and stuff, I feel like there's this feeling of you are a town on the edge. So there's kind of, that is maybe, I mean, maybe Paris is different, but like maybe kind of looked down on in the sense of like,
Yeah.
you know, it's just like that thing, that little thing out
Yeah.
there, and
Yeah.
and you know, the where it is in the thin center of it.
100%. I think it's just like, you know, feeling a bit like an outsider, you know, and like feeling like you don't belong kind of thing, you know, and which is so silly. I mean, because it's also like so close, you know, and it doesn't matter wherever you grew up, but I think, yeah, it really makes you feel like an outsider, or like, you know, there's like, yeah, this kind of disregard of, I mean, maybe I'm talking more about Paris, but there's a bit of this disregard of people coming from the suburbs too, you know, and you do feel a bit ashamed sometimes to say you're from the suburbs. I mean, I'm not talking generally for everyone, but that's also how I felt when I was younger.
I mean, it sounds like kind of part of the project of arcades, but also specifically the project on the choux.
Yeah.
Mind my French accent. I don't have.
No, that's perfect.
If not, I'll just pronounce a very Spanish accent. So
that's good. That's good.
Which translates to the cabbage. Is it cabbage?
Yes.
Which is this estate kind of this architecture.
Yeah.
You explain it better than me.
So les choux de créteile is it's a name that's been given to those residential buildings in Créteil, southeastern suburbs of Paris, and they've been designed by Gérard Grandval, and they translate as the cabbages of Créteil because they just have these very unique organic shapes. You can they have each flat's got balconies in the form of petals. Yeah, like flower petals. So it's like really round. It looks more like for me it's more like maïs, like corn.
Maïs.
Yes,
corn.
Corn.
We'll translate to to English. Corn. Yeah.
Corn. You know, like it's not that much of like like artichoke. It's more like this kind of shape.
Yeah.
Artichoke actually is quite.
Yeah, I can see that
too. Yeah. I mean, actually, there's a picture here, like here on the right. You see? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So this is like, on the top is a picture of the construction, so you can see the petals. That's the balconies, and then later on, like recently.
Yeah, it looks more like an artichoke.
Yeah, it looks more
like
like
an artichoke. When I cook artichoke,
exactly.
that's what comes out.
But yeah, it's those residential buildings, and actually, like, if you are really like anyone who's interested in architecture or brutalist architecture, people know these buildings. I mean, they're not really brutalist architecture, but that's how a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
They're not. I mean, the architect said, it's not brutalist, you know, but he's been featured in a lot of like brutalist.
Really?
Books.
Like, stop it.
Yeah, like loads of books, and there was like a brutalist map, and it was like it was actually on the cover of this. But they're just very well known because they look so unique and so weird. But I was just really interested to know what was happening actually in there, and like, you know, not just architecture wise, but like who was living there and how do you live there as well. So yes, I started this project with my friend Jessica Pichet, who grew up there, and she's an art director working in Paris. And so I did a bit of a documentary series, like when I started arcades on the choux, and then a a year later, I met the architect actually through Arcades, had a coffee with him.
Amazing.
Which was, yeah, absolutely amazing. Like, he died like in December 2021, but at that time he was already quite old, but still working, like, so fascinating and super aware, you know, like very passionate. And he was telling me about a drawing competition that he did with the town hall in 1998. And he said that he kept all the drawings and the poems from the kids at home. And like that's something that kind of stuck in my mind, because I was like, wow, that sounds amazing. Like, we need to see those drawings and those poems. And later on, I meet Jessica. I tell her about those drawings, and to find out that she actually participated in this competition as well, which is like, I mean, like this coincidence. I'm like, wow, this is
Fate.
Fate. Yeah, this is literally fate. And she's one of my very good friends, you know, today. So that's how we started to be like to do this project together. And the project is really to be able to tell the story of the architecture, but through the residents. So, you know, like portraits of the residents, meeting who lived there, meeting who lived there before and moved as well, meeting the people who are the social actors of the neighborhood, you know, so like maybe teachers in primary schools, or like youth educators, or like sports coach.
So what's a social? I don't know what a social actor
I mean,
is.
I don't know if you can actually translate it as in English, but like
It's a French word.
in French we say acteurs sociaux, sorry, which is basically anyone who's kind of contributing in the life of the neighborhood. So it could be like, you know, anyone who runs sports club, or yeah, the teachers, or like anyone running the local library, you know, like anyone who's like kind of working to create the lives of the neighborhood, basically. And yeah, that was a project that we did for like 2 years and a half. It's still ongoing, and yeah, it's a beautiful project. I mean, we started like exhibiting as well some of the project, because we had a lot of archives from the architect as well. We had a lot of archives from the town, but it's still ongoing. We haven't finished the project.
Really?
No, but I think we just needed a big break. I mean, the thing is that end of last year was a massive moment for us to show the project. We started showing the project in the neighborhood, so we just did like street, like sticking the posters in the street, and we really wanted to make it local for the residents. And then we exhibited in Paris, but it was just like a introduction of the project. Really, we have a lot more that we haven't shown, but it's just like, I think that's also the thing about personal social documentary projects is, first, it takes a long time. I mean, it's amazing, it's a passion, you know, project, but it takes a long time. It's a lot of investment, a lot of energy, and also like, you know, you meet people who tell you really like loads of different stuff, but you're a bit of a sponge, you know, and it's like emotionally it's amazing, but it could also be quite draining. I mean, I don't know if I should be saying this, but you know, that's also how we felt. Like, as in,
I feel like that. I think that's right, because it means involvement.
Involvement, yeah. It's like, you know, it's almost like therapy for both parties, you know, kind of thing. But the discussions are always amazing. Like, you always come out and learn stuff. But it's just, yeah. I think after this we were like, okay, we need a break. So like we've just put it on pause for now, and then feel like, okay. I mean, we definitely need to get back to it, because it's such a beautiful project. It's a way for us to pay homage to the architect. We're really close as well to his wife and like his kids, and you know, we really want to do something beautiful for him as well. But yeah, it's just a bit on pause for now, and then hopefully soon we can get back to it and finish it.
Do you remember any of these conversations you had? I imagine you remember a lot of them, but like, is there anyone that...
I mean, you know, it was mainly like, because we were really intrigued about how people lived inside, like, you know, how you decorate, because I mean, it's not round. The corners, there are corners in the flats, but we were really intrigued about like how people decorated the flat, you know, like what was their reaction when they came in and like things like this. And yeah, I think I just remember most like people's experiences, like very different experiences of like living in there. I mean, there might be like a bit boring stuff, but like, you know, someone had like problems of humidity and in the flat, and it's just like, yeah, actually it was really bad because it caused a lot of like problem for her breathing and like blah blah blah, and then that was actually like really bad for this woman to live in this flat. But then we also had really really positive experience of like people coming in and it's super bright and it's like, wow, we have a balcony, like, you know, like I feel like I'm on the top of the world, that kind of thing, you know, like there was so many different experiences and really random facts too, you know. And there was this guy as well who he bought it to rent as an Airbnb, and I think a lot of people don't like that idea. There's not that many people who do this, but he bought this flat because he used to grow up like not too far from the neighborhood, and every time as a kid he would pass on the highway next to those buildings, and his dream was to buy something there, and that's why he bought it, but then to rent it out. Yeah, there's just so many different stories of people living there, so many different experiences. A lot of people are like, they moved there because they didn't have a choice, it was just cheaper. And some people is like, I find it so unique, I absolutely love it, I love the architecture, you know, I love how the neighborhood's been built and so on. So
No, I think it's interesting because, you know, you say small things, but I feel like that is, I don't know how to say it, but I mean that those are the things that kind of build up over time. And I feel like somehow your work also, this project at least, deals with, you know, in maybe directly or indirectly with politics in terms of like, you know, is about public housing and how it's managed, and the fact that there's a, as you say, like a humidity in one flat means that someone might have a breathing problem, which means maybe a whole family has a breathing problem, blah 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 blah. And I feel like that's the level of detail, and I think it's quite interesting. And I'm guessing that's why you find it fascinating, because at the end is the individual lives of all these people that make
the exactly the neighborhood. But you know what's really interesting as well, and I mean that we found out is half. So there's 12 towers, 11 towers, and then a smaller one that's like shorter. So the shorter one is actually half student halls and then social housing, but otherwise, out of the 11 towers, half of it is social housing and half of it is owned properties. And it's very different experiences of life. So, like for example, that woman who had problems of humidity in her flat is someone who was living in the social houses, because obviously, like there has not been that much care about it. Like even if she's been signaled the problem, you know, like no one comes and solve the issue. Whereas on the side of the people who owns the flats, it's a completely different story. Like, you know, like outside you see there's like some flowers, there's like a little garden. The flats are always like very like nice and very well maintained, and like those are the people who are happy usually. So yeah, so like it's a bit strange because like within this neighborhood you always, it's a bit of a reflection of like how society is as well, you know. And it also divides by like a little pedestrian alleyway. So it's just two, like it's a small neighborhood, but it's just like two different sides of like the richer, the poorer, you know, like and yeah, you do feel the difference as well when you're there, and through the talks of the residents. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think what is also fascinating when I heard you talk about the project, and I feel like that's something I don't know why there's something about maybe it's about this finding some form of meaning to work, or like, you know, because you know photography is very aesthetic, and you know nowadays there's everything full of images everywhere, so it feels sometimes a bit hollow inside of these projects, or like, you know, some. But I feel like what I like about your, like, is that it just goes beyond. Like, you guys did, you put it on the street, then you did a podcast, right? You organize, it seems to organize talks with the people of the area.
Yes.
If you want to explain that, because I feel like that's super interesting.
I mean, I think that's the thing we learned so much through this project, because, of course, I mean, me as a photographer, like, the aim was to take pictures, right? But then, as you said, it just went beyond this, and not just, like, you know, photography, the meetings, talking, recording, archives, and all of these things already, like, kind of gave something beyond to photography. But then when we were presenting the project, we exhibited outside, we did it all ourselves, and we organized, like, talks, because for us it's really important, like, you know, when you come from the suburbs, you don't really have this access, like I was saying earlier, to arts and culture, and we kind of wanted to bring that in the neighborhood. So we invited a few different people working in the creative industry who come from the suburbs to talk about their experiences, in the hope of maybe, you know, inspiring some younger people who are also interested in the arts, but they just don't know where to start or who to ask. So we organized these talks. Actually, I forgot something really important that we did. We also reorganized the drawing competition in the local schools. Because the competition was just done once with the architect in 1998. And we were like, but why isn't this happening every year? I mean, then we realized it's a lot of organization, but like, we were like, okay, let's do it again. Let's reorganize this. So with the 2 local primary schools. So we organized this drawing competition, we organized like a panel of judges as well, we organized like prizes for the kids in collaboration with the town hall, like with other partners, like cultural partners, and we gave them a ceremony, like, you know, giving them a prize, like a diploma. So that was a massive part actually of the project, because it kind of like relinked as well the start of the project, and it was so touching to see the kids drawing and, you know, doing poems and doing arts about their neighborhood. And it was really, like, seeing them also happy with the prizes and like being recognized for what they've done creatively was very rewarding for us too. So we also exhibited those drawings and poems.
No, I saw the images. Looked amazing. Looks fun. Also looks fun.
Yeah, super fun. I mean, like, I think you know, of course, like, some kids were more excited than others, but I think it was more like the prize ceremony was so funny. I mean, because first of all, Jess and me were like, not that we're shy, but we're not, you know, we had to like announce the names and stuff, and we were like, wow, in this, like, it was in an auditorium, you know, like very quite big room, and like, we were like, I mean, you know, those kids, we were intimidated by those kids. And we just had like all the diploma, all the prizes, we had medals and everything, and we were calling their names and like showing their work on the screen, and it was like so funny. It was so funny, and it also like, so rewarding again. I think that's when we realized that, wow, okay, obviously we're doing this project with the residents, but it's also for them too, you know, because that's the reaction you want. That is this feeling of them feeling seen, you know, and that was really important for us.
Yeah, because you said no, you had also the sculpture, or like, well, kind of giving their versions of.
Yeah, there was like 3D work, you know, like, and it's kids aged from like 6 to 10, 11, and then the class of 6-year-old, they build this whole like 3D mock-up of like the neighborhood, but in the future. So creating
wow. How do they make it? 3D work, that sound like they're printing in. These are designing in 3D printers.
3D, like, I mean, you know, with paper and
of course,
cottons and stuff. But it was so funny because they just recreated the neighborhood of the future, and it was like really random stuff, like these bits that had loads of like little cotton buds kind of thing, and basically it says like, oh, this is like an infinite Barba Papa, you know, Barba Papa.
But isn't that cartoon Barba Papa?
This
is cotton candy, I think.
Yes, cotton candy.
That's what
So it's like in this neighborhood there will be infinite, like, you know, cotton candy, and
yes,
yeah,
yes.
like really random.
Get this
stuff.
kid in the town hall.
Exactly. And also like the presentation of this mock-ups, they put a soundtrack, you know, so when you enter in the classroom there was like the mock-ups on the floor, and then you have like the atmosphere, you know. I don't know, like it's amazing.
Wow, whole installation. How old were they? You
So
said
6, 7 years old.
6, 7.
Yeah. I mean, they had help from
of course, but
the teacher,
you know,
who
they
was
have the idea.
amazing. But they have the ideas, and this was one of the class that was so excited about the project. And I mean, of course, it was really different with, you know, the commitment of the teacher also helps, obviously. And that teacher of this particular class was very helpful to us. She used to be Jess' teacher. So she remembers Jess, we interviewed her, we photographed her. She helped us make it happen for the renewal of the drawing competition. So yeah, it was amazing. It was a very, very good experience. And then we just did more workshop as well with kids. We did a cooking workshop as well with kids in Paris, like for the kids from the suburbs to come and learn to cook. On the theme of the choux still. But yeah, I think it's amazing to be able to like see how, you know, really question the practice of photography and how it can be expanded and how you can just make it your own way of doing photography as well. You know, it's not just, I mean, obviously we know, but it's not just images. I mean, I say obviously, but it's not always obvious for people, but it's not just images, you know. It's just so much more than what you see. It's the whole process, the whole research, meeting people, the social practices, and then taking the pictures actually is very quick. And then it's the editing, the selecting, the how do you share it? Who do you share it with? You know, how do you talk about it? It's like so. It's actually such a complex practice in a way, but it's amazing because you can just do whatever you want with it too. But I think actually thinking back about this, doing this project really questioned like my practice as a documentary photographer, especially how you share projects, and especially on like anything that's related to social documentary projects, because I think sharing it with the neighborhood for the first time was the best idea, because I think again that reminded you of like you're doing this project for those residents, for the people you met. It's not to like take pictures and then go to Paris and London and exhibit it in a gallery. You know, the aim.
Yeah, and you then because I've seen projects where
of course
someone looks good because you know it looks like they've done something.
Yeah, like, you know, I mean, I think you for sure there's loads of projects that are documentary and then are the intentions, I think that's a question, it's like what are your intentions as a documentary photography and through this project. And I think that is something that we always need to remember, because you can tell, of course, like some people do documentary projects or like a travel project or about a community in the aim of just being seen and published, you know, which I don't think is right. But that can also like tell, you know, the honesty of the project or not, and the real intentions of the photographer. But I think this is something that's so important to like think about. How do you share the project, you know, and with who and where? Yeah, I mean,
I think I agree. And I'm kind of to start finishing off. Because it's quite interesting, at least I draw this connection between, like, you know, we were talking about before about, you were saying how, you know, coming back and being, and like we couldn't do kind of arts in a proper way, let's say, where you're from, which I identify completely. And then coming back, and it's interesting because coming back and do workshops, like sort of creative or art workshops, And I was wondering, did you have, when, growing up, is any of your friends kind of into creative, some form of creative, doesn't matter if music, or were they ever, or was it mostly like a you thing in your group of friends?
I mean, yeah, in my group of friends when I grew up as in like, yeah, teenager, and yeah, I didn't really have any friends who were interested in the arts. I mean, I had a friend who liked photography, but that was maybe my closest friend. But like, it wasn't like she, like I was taking actually a lot of pictures of her, and I think we enjoyed that together. Um, so maybe actually, yeah, she was probably my closest friend that was close to the same interest. But I think that's why we wanted to do those workshops and those talks, is because I think when I grew up, I really wanted to be able to talk to someone, even if it's not making friends with someone who was in the arts or interested. It's just being able to ask questions and talk about it. And that's why it was really important for us to bring it to the suburbs, because you just don't have that much of the access, to the arts and culture, even though there are cultural centers, in the suburbs, but it's not necessarily a priority for a lot of families that live in the suburbs for the kids to be interested in the arts too. But yeah, no, I mean, I didn't grow up in a creative environment or surrounded by people who like that too. But I'm also really grateful that my parents, who are, Asian, like Chinese immigrants, came to France. They supported me a lot to do this. Like I know a lot of Asian families, Asian parents who completely forbid their kids to do anything art related. So I'm really grateful that my parents really pushed me actually to do that. So I think that helped.
Yeah. I mean, I also ask because I feel like something I found particularly hard is when you don't have some form of reference of like, or you're not used to, because the act of creating is just like from nowhere doing something that you don't know if it's gonna work or not. And looking at your work and stuff is very impressive. That going from, well, you tried fashion, and then go to photography, and then did a documentary project, but then push it beyond, kind of, and then a magazine that is going and making several volumes. And like, to me it sounds like you're going into a lot of areas, unknown areas, kind of. At least that's the impression. And I was wondering how did you push through, or like maybe it's a difficult question in that way, but like, yeah, how was that, or like having to go, or how did you feel, or how do you go through that, like making the first magazine, or the first.
I mean, I think it's like obviously like support again from. I mean, my parents are pretty amazing for supporting me and pushing me. I mean, even like going to St. Martin's, like basically when I came to London, I didn't get in since St. Martin's. That's why I went to London because of fashion. And then my parents were like, "You need to try again. You need to push." And they're like they're very much like this because they're very hard workers. Like like you need to work and you need to do it. You need to like make it happen. And I think that came from my family. So like, so yeah, this push through spirit is definitely like a family thing. And then I think it's also like, I think with years of working and experience, I think you're less scared of also just trying things, like, I mean, our case, I'm not gonna lie to you, like the first issue, looking back at it, it's not something I would create now today, design wise, like photography wise, but it's okay, like I just wanted to do it, and I did a Kickstarter at the time, so I had money to create it. And I was like, fuck it, we'll just do it. And it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
I think that's the mentality I have, which could be good and bad. Like, I'm definitely not a perfectionist, like I'm more of someone who's like, you want to do it, you want to make it happen, we'll do it, Even if it's not going to be perfect, actually, I kind of like it that it's not perfect. But, and then, like, yeah, it's the same for our case, like, doing those issues, I've never really been 100% happy of, like, the design of, like, like, there's always something I find that doesn't really correspond, but at the same time, I just wanted to have it out there, and there was the right time to do it, and I learned from those thoughts too, of like, maybe I can do it better for next time. Like that's also how I move forward. Like I really, I if I want to make something happen, I'll just make it happen, because we don't have time really to like just do the things, and like, and even if you don't know how to do it, like, I mean, for example, arcades, like the first issue I did everything, even like writing and stuff, and like, okay, it's
you
not,
sound tired when you say writing.
Yeah, writing. It's not amazing. Even the design, I mean, it was my graduation project, but you just learn and you learn and you learn, and then what's also amazing is that then you surround yourself with friends and a team that knows help you, like you were saying, for example, a video, and then you go with a friend and she explains you like how to do it. This is also part of the learning process. But yeah, I really encourage people to like not be afraid and just like do it, And I know sometimes it's easy to say because there could be loads of things that hold you back. I don't know, financially, time, of course, 100% understand that. But I think it's also like not being scared of making something not perfect. And that's so important, because I think nowadays with social media, Instagram, so many photos look perfect and beautiful and perfectly lit and perfectly dressed, and models look beautiful. I mean, is this really important? So yeah. Don't be afraid to make things that are not perfect and not beautiful.
Completely, yeah, I think so. I mean, here I am doing this thing. And the last thing I just wanted to ask you, which is, because this is a personal thing where I feel like, I'm looking a lot on Instagram or whatever, like, I don't know why I feel quite, or there's months where I felt quite passive because I was just looking. So I was wondering if you had any exercise or like, and I know this is a bit out of the blue, but like any prompt, something, if someone kind of feels a bit stuck, maybe with photography or documentary photography or something, or do you have any creative exercise or something that like just to go and do?
Okay. I mean, well, sports. I mean, it's like, I don't know if it's a creative exercise, but I'm super drawn by sports and movement, and like how it can make you feel good. And in so many moments that I've been feeling down and feeling like, where am I going? What am I doing? Like, like there's so many moments like this as, creative people. We feel like, guys, exercise is the most amazing thing that can happen for your mind and your body. And like, I'm fascinated by people who do sports because it brings this community, it brings people together, and it just makes you feel fucking great. And like, if there's something I could, like, if I had to redirect myself, I would definitely be in like health and sports and wellness. Like, I'm like passionate about it. So like, this is what helps me. But then also, like the obvious thing of like, okay, get out of the house and go see an exhibition. Or like films is also something I'm really drawn by. And reading books. I mean, they're a bit more like obvious things that maybe other people do, but sometimes we do forget to do them too. Like going to the cinema by yourself and watch a movie, and it might trigger some ideas. Or like, sometimes if you're really stuck and you don't know what to do, go to a library and just like pick a random book. Like it's like
I don't know why you're laughing. I think it's a good idea.
No, but like it's just like a really
so like crazy.
Some people might think, what? Okay, but like I think just so many like free stuff you can do as well, because again, going to see an exhibition and going to the cinema is not always cheap. But like there's things for free you could do, is just go to a library and just sit down, take a book, random book, and just go through. And also, like, I think just being outside, I think the problem is we are very screen obsessed nowadays, and we need the reality of life. We need people. I mean, I love also going, I love taking the buses because I love hearing what people say. You know, like I love like seeing who's in the bus, like what they think, trying to think what they're thinking. You know, like imagining all these things. But it's because, yeah, especially when you're in a city like London, there's like so many interesting people and character, and get out there. You know,
Go out, talk to
go
your grandma.
out, talk to, or even if you don't want to talk to, because you know it's. I think I was actually, maybe when I was younger, it was really easy to talk to anyone. Now I'm a bit more like, they're gonna think I'm crazy, you know. But sometimes it's just like, I don't know, sit somewhere and look at people, you know, like hear the conversations. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's more than enough tips. Yeah. I think that's great. Well, I'm gonna, because you gotta go.
Yes.
Definitely, whoever is listening to this, check Wendy's work because it's really great. Yeah, thank you again.